So this is a gear video. I'm going to go through all of the gear that I'm taking on my 800 kilometer through hike, the HRP, or the Pyrenean Haute Route across Spain. I start in 2 days, and I'm going to go through everything that's in my kit in not too much detail. Let's get into it. All the stuff I'm carrying is in 2 little packs. That's my Camelback Flow hip belt, and then my pack, which is lightweight Elementum. And I think everything that I'm carrying works out to be about 5 kilos. So that's my base weight. On top of this, I'll have food and water and everything else, all the other consumables, but we're not going to go through that, just my base weight stuff. But let's begin with what I'm wearing right now, my clothing. So I have a really nice little lightweight hat from Salomon. It's got a little Legionnaire's flap on the end here, and I can take that off if I feel like being slightly less dorky. Then sunglasses. These are from Glacier Optics, and I've just put a croquis strap on the back so that if I'm running or bouncing around, I can tighten that up and they're not going to fall down my nose, because they are a little bit loose, but they're beautiful sunglasses. I really like the nice brown tint. There's also a couple of little extra leather pieces that I can use if I really wanted some protection from the sides. My shirt is from Saliwa. I wanted something long sleeve, I wanted a collar, and I wanted something that would dry really quickly, something really nice and light. I've used it on a few trips already, and so far it's really good. I can just jump in a stream to wash it. Really stretchy, really comfortable, highly recommended. My shorts are from Kip Run. These are just really cheap shorts from Decathlon here in Europe. Again, they dry really quickly, so I can just jump in a stream and wash them. And I'm only bringing 1 pair. I've got my mask, which is an essential piece of through hiking in a pandemic. Then I've got my footwear. On my feet I have the Silverlight socks. I'm bringing 2 pairs of those. Got a whole video about those if you want to see it. For my shoes, I've got the Ultra Olympus 4. Again, I've done a whole video on these, so if you want to see more detail, but essentially what I was going for here is 0 drop, wide, relatively flexible. You know, it's almost a natural style barefoot shoe, but as you can see, it's got a lot of cushioning, and I'm not quite at the completely barefoot or natural footwear stage yet. I wanted a little bit of cushion for these 800 kilometers across this mountain range, so I'll get there one day. For those of you who have seen that video and you're wondering how they're holding up, I've probably done about 200 to 300 kilometers by now, and nothing's changed. Those little holes have managed to stay little holes, so I'm pretty confident that these are going to last fairly well for the entire trip. Alright, let's get into the next piece of equipment. This is the Camelback Flow, my hip belt. Not too many thru hikers are using big, chunky kind of hip belts like this, but I went for this because I need to get my camera and my microphone in here, and it's just nice to have something at your hips. In this case, I've got a few other bits and pieces. I've got a Bluetooth timer for my phone if I want to be taking shots. I've got my Sony headphones, same as last year that I used. These are beautiful. It's a WC200. Got a separate battery pack there that lasts probably about 8 to 12 hours. And the reason why I like that is because if I run out of battery, it kind of forces me to just kind of listen and tune into nature and enjoy the sound. So I like having a limited amount of music and podcasts. Also in here, I've got a couple of spare batteries from my camera. I'm using the Canon M50, which is what I'm filming on now, so we'll take a look at that. I've got the Canon M50 just with a kit lens. I've got an ND filter on the front here, which takes the harsh daylight out of my shots. I've got a Rode Video Micro microphone with a windscreen, and then here I've got the Joby 1K GorillaPod, which means I can grip onto absolutely anything. I can use trees, fences, whatever. This thing is really great, and I've saved so much weight from leaving my 1.2 kilo tripod at home and bringing this Joby GorillaPod with me. So that's where a lot of my weight savings have come from. Also in here, I've replaced the regular Camelback bottle that comes with the Flow with my main water filtering source and my main water bottle, which is the Katadyn Be Free. I think if you watch a lot of these hiking videos, you probably know enough about this already. I've got 600 ml of storage there, and a lot of the time we're just walking past streams, so I can fill up really quickly and easily when it's located in my hip belt. And then in the front, I've got just my wallet. It's got some cash and my cards and ID and all that basic stuff. Alright, let's get to the actual backpack. This is the same pack that I used last year, lightweight Elementum. Beautiful pack, weighs about 500 grams or so. On the outside here, these are my trekking poles. This is the Lecky Trail. I think this is the most basic model that Lecky make. I've gone for aluminium this year rather than carbon because last year I snapped a carbon pole. I just really wanted something really strong. I didn't want to get in the position where I was breaking another pole. So this is basically the strongest, most basic pole I could find. It's also the cheapest, so I'll let you know how it goes. My water storage, I've just got a couple of 2-litre plastic water bottles. I don't love taking plastic water bottles into the outdoors because one time when it was empty with really strong wind, it flew away and I could never find it. So I wanted to get a soft bottle. I wanted to get the Hydro Pack 2-litre and bring 2 of those, but I just couldn't get a hold of them in time. So I've just got 2 of your standard basic water bottles. Another soft flask. This one doesn't have a filter in it, just a 500 ml. So those 2 bottles and these 2 soft bottles mean I've got a decent water carrying capacity for the HRP. On the back support of my pack, I've got my sleeping mat, Thermarest Z-Lite, cut down into 8 sections, and this isn't the most comfortable thing ever, but it's the best solution that I've found. I did buy a Thermarest Neo Air Uberlite, but it was really hard to sleep on. I kept falling off it and it's just so thin that I really don't trust it. So I'm gonna go just with something that is absolutely foolproof, Thermarest Z-Lite. On the front section of my pack, I've got a really nice little stretchy area here, and I've got my Colgan's trowel here. It's about 50 grams. I want to get a deuce of spades, but they're pretty expensive to get sent to Spain. I'll get one eventually. I've got some seam grip because I still haven't seam sealed my tent yet. I'm planning to do that this afternoon. I've had it for a year and I still haven't seam sealed it, but so far it's been fine. And the last thing on the outside of my pack is my rain kit. So this is a combination of 2 different pieces of clothing. We'll grab them out now and take a look. So firstly, this year I am bringing rain pants. These are just a really cheap version from a department store here in Spain called Corte Inglés, and some of the stuff they make is actually pretty good. These are Mountain Pro brand. They were 10 bucks. They're about 130 grams. They look goofy as hell, but they'll do the job. Then for my rain jacket, which I haven't even used yet. This came in the other day. So this is the Montbell Versalite. This is my wind shell, it's my rain shell, and I've not used it yet. It just came in the mail, but I trust the people who recommend this stuff to me. Thanks, Chris, Grateful Hike on Instagram.
What's up, guys?
He's a Pyrenees veteran, so I trust the gear that he's recommended to me. So this is Gore Windstopper, really super light. Most important thing is that it's got pit zips. So if I am too warm and I start sweating, then I can just open the pit zips. I can open this all the way. It's a pretty warm day and I'm already starting to sweat, so we're gonna take it off. Okay, now we're gonna get into what is actually on the inside of my pack. But first, I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is a collection of amazing classes and tutorials on just about any subject you can imagine. It is a community of people who are curious and want to learn different skills, anything from video production to illustration, design, Photoshop, and entrepreneurship. My new favorite class is Ali Abdal's Productivity Masterclass, Principles and Tools to Boost Your Productivity, with the key takeaway for me being here that there are 3 myths around productivity: the myth of time, the myth of motivation, and the myth of multitasking. The cool thing about Skillshare is you pay 1 monthly price and you get unlimited access to all of these tutorials and classes. Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 people who click the link in the description 1 free month access to Skillshare and all of this material. Most of the classes are less than 60 minutes, which makes it so easy to digest new information and apply it to any creative or entrepreneurial pursuit you may have. So if you have a thirst for knowledge, then Skillshare is a great place for you. Click the first link in the description. That helps this channel out, but it also gives you 1 free month access to Skillshare. All right, now we're going to get into what is actually inside my pack, and everything that's inside my pack is inside a DCF liner. So let's pull that out and have a look. So this is a DCF pack liner from Lightweight Equipment, the same manufacturer that made my pack. This is a prototype. It's not actually out in the market yet, but those guys were kind enough to send it to me to test it out. So far it's been great. Obviously super lightweight, very low tech. There's no buckle at the top or anything. It's just a gigantic garbage bag. And I know what you're thinking, why don't you just use a garbage bag? Well, I've searched high and low for a really durable, lightweight garbage bag. I still haven't been able to find one. They tend to break, and this thing has been indestructible so far. So, all right, let's take a look inside. I've got my cold soak container. I'm not strictly cold soaking for this entire trip, but I wanted to give myself the opportunity to be able to do it. So I'm bringing the jar along with me that'll serve as my cup, and I plan to cold soak probably 2 weeks at least out of my entire trip, which I think is going to be about a month. The rest of the time I'm cooking, and everything I'm cooking with is in this little pot. I've got my GSI Outdoors coffee filter. I am going to be brewing coffee on this trip. I really needed that luxury. And then for my stove, I've got the BRS 3000 as a really super lightweight stove. You've probably seen a lot of other hikers use this, and that's because it weighs like an ounce or 28 grams, and it's the lightest stove out there. So I am bringing a stove, but I'm going pretty minimal with it. Then I've got a little mini lighter inside because this thing does not have a piezo. This is my food bag. This is from Cedar Summit, and there's not really much to talk about in here. Inside here is a plastic bottle of olive oil. You can get these in Spain pretty easily, and that feels like a lot of weight, but if you count the actual calories that are in here, it's probably the most lightweight food there is. I've got a bunch of Ziploc bags, which I like to keep to put my food in. I've got my single utensil for this trip, which is a Primus spoon. Also in the cook set is my Opinel, made in France. It's a little bit rusty from last year. This is a number 12, but it's really light. I'm done with bringing a tiny little Swiss Army knife. I find it useless. I want a real decent sized knife.
Redneck gunwork!
So let's move on. So this little Cedar Summit dry bag is basically my bathroom and first aid kit. I have a bamboo toothbrush. I've got dental floss with a little sewing needle attached to the thread. So this can be really useful for gear repairs in the worst possible situation. It could be used for first aid. I've got some dent tabs, so rather than bringing toothpaste, I'm going to be bringing these little single chew tablets. So I've also got earplugs, which is very handy when it's a windy night and the wind is smashing up against the tent and it's too loud for you to sleep. These are absolutely crucial. I've got Cedar Summit soap sheets. This is body wash, shampoo. I could use it for cleaning dishes, and you don't need much. There's enough in here to keep me going for a couple of trips probably. This is just a little bit of tenacious tape from Gear Aid. There's quite a lot there. I probably don't need the whole lot. I also usually bring a couple of zip ties. Now we're getting kind of into first aid territory, so I've got 3M steri strips just in case there's a gash or a wound that I need to kind of stitch up. And then it's just drugs, basically paracetamol, Imodium in case you have diarrhea, backup water treatment pills, ibuprofen. We've got an antiseptic spray for cleaning wounds, and this one can also be used orally as well. We've got a little plastic mirror, toenail clippers, more random drugs. And finally, just a little bit of Leuko tape just for body repairs. You could probably make a sprained ankle a little bit more bearable with just a little bit of this stuff, so always bring that. Okay, moving on to electronics. So in here I've got my Anker 20,000 milliamp hour battery. The RavPower one from last year I found didn't really perform that well, so I've gone with Anker this year. Hopefully it's going to perform better. It's also a little bit lighter, 348 grams. I got very close to getting a Nightcore, but that was quite expensive. What I did get from Nightcore is the head torch that you've probably seen a million times. I think this is the NU25. I've taken the strap off and just put a little bit of bungee cord. You've probably seen these a lot. I'm pretty sure every hiking YouTuber has one of these, and that's because it's a great little torch. Also in here I've got my Power Extra charger, so this plugs directly into the Anker and I can recharge my camera batteries with that. I'm bringing 3 batteries in total. Then the rest of this is just cords. Then I had to bring an iPhone cable because I've got the iPhone 11 which I'm filming on here. I'm not happy about having to bring an extra cord, but that's Apple for you. Also forgot to mention I'm bringing a charging base. This one is 68 grams from YB Power, fast charging, and 2 other USBs. Solid. Getting on to the business end of things. Here I have my shelter. This is the lightweight Pira Oms, the same one I used last year, but with a big change. I'm not using the inner mesh. Instead, I'm just going with a tent floor. And for my tent floor, I'm just using your advice. I bought a Polycryo ground sheet. Weighs next to nothing. I've used it a couple of times and I'm really happy with it. It does just really stink when it's wet, so I have to dry it out every single day, but that's going to be fine for a tent floor. I won't have any bug protection, but I'm going to get into my solution for that shortly. Now there's a lot to go through with this tent, so I've made a whole video. If you want to see more detail on it, I'll link it up here and in the description so you can check it out. Okay, last thing in my pack, and this is basically just all my nighttime kind of comfortable things. So this mesh bag that contains all this stuff came with my quilt from Lightweight Equipment, and I actually used it as a mosquito head net, so it kind of has two really great little functions. Inside this little bag is the rest of my clothing. So I have a wool t-shirt from Decathlon. It's a 4-class, really basic merino wool base layer, and I can throw that on if I want a little bit of extra warmth in a base layer. I did consider bringing a long sleeve version, but I really just don't think I will need it. I think that's going to be plenty. It is going to be still pretty warm up there in August. Then I have, from the same brand, the same material, 4-class merino neck gaiter. So this can serve both as a neck gaiter, it can serve as a beanie, lots of other different uses. I could probably use it as a towel. In fact, the towel is the one thing that I don't have in here. I forgot, but it's the same towel that I used last year. Then I've got another little luxury item. This is my pillow. Again, same one that I used last year. I really value a good night's sleep. If I sleep well, I can do a lot more kilometers, so I figure it's worth bringing a little bit of extra weight to be able to sleep comfortably. Speaking of comfort, I brought some track pants. This is probably my oldest piece of kit. These are from Mountain Designs in Australia. Just a really lightweight pair of fleece pants. These things are gonna get very dirty and sweaty, and I don't want to wear them every single night in bed, so I'll be kind of wearing these fleece pajamas. Then, this may come as a surprise to some of you, I'm bringing an insulated jacket. Last year I didn't. I just used my Poncho quilt, which I'm bringing again this year, but this is from Montbell. This is the Thermowrap UL. So it's got the hood, it's synthetic. I've never had a synthetic jacket before. I've used it a couple of times. So far it's very, very comfortable. I'm really looking forward to some of those colder, windier days where I can put this on and be really cozy. But I'm really happy with it so far, and I would love to do a full video on this one once I've got a little bit more experience with it. Okay, finally we have my sleeping bag poncho. So this is a new piece of gear from Lightweight Equipment, and this will function as a quilt. It can also be an extra down jacket. So essentially it's just a big rectangle of down, and then at the end you have a drawstring here which creates your foot box, and you've got a very short zip. I actually put my Thermarest Z-Lite behind these little clips of bungee cord. I find with sleeping bags they end up being too tight and really uncomfortable. Half the time I end up out of them or off my mat. So having a quilt that both wraps around my sleeping mat to keep me in there, and something that can be used in really, really cold weather as a down poncho is a really nice option to have. I've only used this thing a couple of times, but again, I'll be making a more detailed video on it once I've got a few more miles on it. So if you have questions about any of this gear, feel free to leave a comment below. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of this stuff, and for that reason I started a Discord, which is basically an online forum for hikers. We can discuss different routes, gear, nutrition, anything to do with hiking. We've got about 350 members there already. It's completely free. I would love to see you there. The link is in the description. One thing I did forget to mention is sunscreen. That was right in the hip pocket of my backpack here. By the way, I should say thanks to Kansarat, the art community here, but it's a really nice little community. If you're an artist and you're looking for somewhere to hang out and do your thing, then come and check out their website or their Instagram. Beautiful place to sit down and be creative. See Montserrat in the background there? Thanks guys for letting me use this space. I'll see you on the summit.